Good evening. How many of you know that your emotions is a determinant of who you are? I'm Dortheen, Richardson. I'm your instructor tonight on emotion-focused therapy. Emotion-focused therapy is an empirical-based research that is founded on the premises of the bonding process and the attachment theory. The EFT addresses and redirect negative emotions in individuals. In the 1980s, Sue Johnson founded emotion-focused therapy for couples. She realized that many of the couples' interventions ignored their emotions. And she realized that most marital discord was founded on or related to our emotional detachments or attachments through positivity in the relationship. And then a couple of years later, Robert Elliott and Les Greenberg modified the method and targeted individuals. There is a substantial amount of research on the outlining of the effectiveness of EFT. Approximately 70 to 75% of couples that transform from distress to recovery, with 90% of them showing a significant improvement in their relationships. And through this course, there's 3 learning processes, objectives that we will be able to describe by the end of this course. And that's the ability to identify primary emotions, the ability to identify and track the presence of negative cycles and interactions, and to be able to track and reprocess the primary emotions to a healthy state of being. What is emotion-focused therapy? EFT is a unique intervention that guides clients to accepting, expressing, and making dramatic changes in themselves to develop a more positive and secure bond with others. The therapist, along with the client, they look at the negative cycles in the relationship, and they take measures to recreate a more positive, secure attachment and develop trust to create a healthier bond. The approach includes elements of the person-centered therapy, gestalt therapy, systemic therapy, and the attachment theory. Emotion-focused therapy recognizes the importance of our emotions, and it places us at the head of the therapeutic process. And by doing this, they increase awareness of the emotions, enhance the emotion regulations, and transform a negative emotion to a more positive emotion. Now we're going to watch a short video by Ann Hurley on what is EFT.
What would it feel like to be completely understood? To be fully yourself, without judgment or scrutiny? What might happen if you embarked on a journey of inner discovery? What if you could literally reshape the way you feel about yourself, your life, your future? We believe anything is possible, and that the possibilities begin when we delve into our felt experience. From our perspective, emotions, whether apparently good ones or supposedly bad ones, are all welcome friends. We run into problems not because of the type of emotions we have, but problems in how we perceive, process, accept, or express them. We propose the best way to create lasting change is not through a deliberate attempt to alter thoughts or behaviors. Rather, we believe when we come into direct contact with our inner experience, an innate intelligence arises and instinctively leads to deep-rooted change in perception, thought, and behavior, as well as emotion. We need to arrive at a place before we can leave it. In other words, when it comes to emotion, we need to feel it in order to heal it. The role of an emotion-focused therapist is to be a kind of emotion coach, helping you move from painful and repetitive patterns of feeling to an ever-changing landscape of emotion that is fresh, alive, and invigorating. This process happens by moving through a variety of tasks that are designed to foster growth, empowerment, and choice. Working with an emotion-focused therapist is probably quite different from anything you have done before, and that is what can make it so exciting, scary, strange, comforting, and transformative.
What's unique about emotion-focused therapy is that we meet each client or clients exactly where they're at in their lives, in their minds and bodies. And although the theory and the training guides us and is a backdrop to our work, it's really through the collaboration and connection with each client that we engage in a creative process of working through the difficulties to help each person be exactly where they want to be.
We have found that self-criticism can melt into self-acceptance. Rage can surrender to hurt. Pain can subside and reinstate hope. Virtually any difficult emotional state can be explored and worked on until it becomes something that is serving us for the better. We are here to see you as you truly are, to guide your progress, and to help you make the changes you are seeking. We believe in the transformative power of emotion-focused therapy and invite you to begin your journey today.
Okay, Dr. Hurley was, in her video, she explained what EFT was and how important it is for us to learn to express those emotions that we're experiencing. You know, at some point in our lives, every last one of us has experienced some type of negativity in our life. And we need to learn, sometimes it takes others to make us aware of what those reactions are and that we need to deal with them so we can heal inside and not lash out at others. So what is the relationship between EFT and the attachment theory? Now there's a common bond between the two. And as I said earlier, when I gave you the definition of what EFT was, it said it was the bond based on the bonding process and the attachment theory. And you see this for those who have been in the presence of infants. As an infant, we learn to develop bonds, secure bonds in our lives that carries on throughout our lives. So as an infant, it teaches you how you're supposed to feel. And you see that when a parent or a caregiver leave the room with an infant, they start to cry. But when they return, they feel that security and they're rejoiced again. You also see this bond when it's broken in relationships, when the relationship has been terminated. One or both of the parties involved in the relationship, they either hurt or they lash out at each other, or in a relationship of a family where there's a divorce. The divorce doesn't just affect the mother and the father, it affects everybody involved in it. And that's why it's important that when we start to display or have these negative emotions in our lives, that we learn how to deal with them and redirect them so that we can feel better about ourselves and have a healthier life. Now I'm going to watch a short video by Dr. Robert Elliott. He's going to explain why our emotions are so important.
Why emotion is important and how we can get stuck or become caught in emotions. So human beings have emotions because they developed them, or our ancestors developed them over time because they helped our ancestors survive. And so over millions of years of animal evolution, we developed various kinds of emotions. Some of the earliest emotions developed was, for example, fear, and then things like love and compassion developed more recently in our past. And so now we have a full range of emotions. And so emotions are quite important to us, but and specifically emotions are important in three ways. First, emotions have information. Emotions point to important situations in our lives. So every different kind of emotion points to something important happening in the situation around us in our environment. So if we're angry, it tells us that something, some boundary of ours is being violated. It could be our person, our children, our property, but something is infringing on that boundary. And with anger, it tells us that. Sadness tells us that we've lost something, we've lost a connection. Love tells us we're in the presence of a highly valued object, and so on. And so emotions point to important things in our lives, and they have information for us. So that means if we are not in touch with our emotions, then we are losing valuable information. We are being cut off from situations, and we will not be able to cope as well because we won't have the input that we need. Emotions are also important because they give us a sense of continuity or direction in our life. So part of how I recognized who I am over time is by the quality of my emotions, the quality of maybe sadness I feel at being slightly separate from other people. I recognize challenge with my adolescence, my adulthood, and so emotions are important because they give us a sense of continuity or wholeness, a sense of being a whole self, which is important for human beings so we don't feel so fragmented. And the third way that emotions are important is that they connect to action. They help us prepare us for action. The word emotion basically means what puts us in motion, what moves us forward. And so if we know what we're feeling, then we can figure out what we need, what that emotion is pointing to, what we need in our lives, what needs to happen because of the emotion. So the emotions point to needs or wants, and if we know what we need or want, we can figure out how to get those needs or wants met. So if we don't have access to the emotions, we don't know what we need, and we can't figure out what to do. And that means that people who have severely block their emotions or constrain them, or people who have suffered injuries to the part of their emotions where they experience emotions, those people lose the ability to make choices in their lives. So emotions give us a sense of continuity, they give us information about the situation, and they help move us to action. Those are three ways in which emotions are important to us and are valuable. They're essential for us navigating through our lives. But people get stuck in their emotions. They have different kinds of difficulties with their emotions. And they have three main kinds of difficulties, I believe, with their emotions. The first of those difficulties is the emotions can get out of whack. It's like your emotional thermostat gets set too high, which you're stiflingly hot. You're overwhelmed with the heat in your house, for example. Or the emotions can be turned down too low. So the emotional thermostat can be turned way, way down, and then you're kind of cut off. It's as if you're kind of emotionally frozen. You get cut off from your emotions. So emotions can get out of whack either by being too low or turned down too much, so they're blocked, in which case you don't have information, you lose the sort of impulse to action, the sense of continuity I was talking about, or the emotions can be too much, they can feel overwhelming, feel like they're just in our face, and that it's not that we're having the emotion is having us. We're in the grip of a powerful fear or an overwhelming sadness, and we just get stuck and can't get out. So sometimes the emotion is too much, and we need to find a way of moderating or containing or pulling back from that really strong and painful emotion. That's one way to get stuck in emotions. We can also get stuck in our emotions if we don't fully develop them. Emotions connect to all the experiences we have, to our sense of the situation, to our body, to our minds, and how we symbolize experiences, to our actions. So emotions tie all that together, and if we don't fully elaborate emotions, there'll be pieces missing from them, and we can get stuck because we're not able to get out all the information and all the different aspects of emotions. That's another way. And the third way we get stuck in our emotions is if we have one emotion that fits the situation, and then we do something we react against that emotion, and we block it with another emotion. So another emotion basically comes in and sits on top of, or interferes, or stops the first emotion. For example, if I have a quarrel with my partner over something, about when dinner's going to be ready, or who's doing what, then I might feel anxious or afraid that the relationship's going to go downhill, or it will fall apart, and so I might start feeling afraid or anxious. But then instead of working with the fear, examining it, reflecting on it, seeing what it needs, I might get angry instead. I might get angry at the fear, and that anger is going to come out either in anger towards myself for being weak and afraid, or it might come out as anger at my partner for causing me to be afraid. And so then I might go pick a fight with her. Or I might get depressed and pull back into myself. And, if I've just had a fight with my partner, me pulling back and pouting and being depressed, or me picking a fight with her, either of those things are going to not help the situation at all. In fact, they'll make it worse. So we can get into trouble if we let another emotion come along and cover up the most important and useful emotion. So we can get stuck in our emotions, by not fully processing them, by letting them get too much or too little, or by allowing another emotion to come and basically shut down the most useful emotion.
Dr. Elliott explained to us why our emotions are important and how they affect us throughout our lives. No matter where we are in our lives, we will be encountered with emotions from an infant all the way up to adults. And he explains that if we don't express those emotions, we're not aware of them or express them, then we'll get bound up in those emotions, and then we create a negative vibe within ourselves. And then if it gets so much and we start stacking on all these different emotions on top of each other, then we'll start lashing out at our loved ones. And you see that a lot in couples when the husband and wife get into an argument. It could be something menial, have nothing to do with it, but that argument started because somebody is not expressing what's going on with them, and they lash out, and then it becomes a bigger issue. And those 4 emotions that he was describing is the primary adaptive emotions, which is the initial response to the incident or the expression itself. Can anybody give me a primary adaptive emotion example? Yes, depression would be one. And then the primary maladaptive emotion, which is that response of the initial. Dr. Elliott just gave us an example when you have this first emotion, and then you compound it with something else on top of it, and you never get to that initial emotion. Can anybody give me an example of a maladaptive emotion? Say, I'm angry. What would be a secondary or maladaptive emotion on top of being angry? Yes, lashing out, because you compounded it on top of it. And then the secondary reaction emotion is going to be, it's complex to whatever the primary maladaptive or adaptive emotion is. And an example of the secondary emotion, again, will be you grieving for the love of a lost one, the loss of a loved one. And that grief, you never get any help for it, then you become depressed, and you start having anxiety on top of that. And compounded on top of that, if you don't ever express those feelings or get the assistance that you need, then it can cause you medical problems on top of that. And then the 4th is the instrumental response, which is the experience as a result of the learned behavior. And that's what you come up with, that final response of you not getting treatment for the loss of the bereavement, and you get, you suffer from depression and anxiety, and then you start withdrawing from everybody.
Isolating yourself.
You start isolating yourself. When would you utilize EFT? After everything that we just heard, when would you utilize them? Who would benefit from EFT? We know that couples would benefit from it. Individuals?
Individuals that don't express themselves and all that.
Right, and families as well. EFT distinguishes between the adaptive and the maladaptive emotion to seek and guide the clients to transform it to a more positive emotion. And they do this by escalation and de-escalation, which is the first stage of healing. The goal is to uncover the underlying emotion and to begin to change the way that you perceive it. And changing the interaction is the second stage, where you create a new emotional experience. You replace the negative ones with the positive ones so you can feel better about yourself and have a healthier life. And then the consolidation, integration of change is the third and final process. That's when you resolve your old problems and you have learned techniques to reframe and redirect your emotions. So when you are faced with these negative emotions, long after you have left therapy, you have learned to deal with it and redirect it and get that negativity out of your life so you can have a more positive lifestyle. How does it work? It focuses on the present to facilitate a change in the here and now. And by doing this, a counselor needs to be genuine and authentic in their relationship with their client. They have to engage in the therapeutic process themselves, and by doing this, they reveal themselves by using transference and countertransference. That's you taking on that the feelings that your client have and so forth. And the video with Ann Hurley showed one technique to do this is the empty chair. Remember, you place an empty chair in front of your client, like so. And what that client does is that they sit there and they express those emotions. They try to connect with the opposing part of them, or what that person or that they have these issues with, how they would see them. And then the second technique is the two-chair. And that's where your client actually is going to change position to interact with two aspects of themselves. They're working that issue out by themselves. You're helping them, guiding them by being authentic and helping them and reassuring them that, it's okay that you have these problems, but that's why we're here, to help you to overcome these issues. And some of the techniques that are used in this is empathetic listening. And that's where you attempt to make a bond, an authentic bond with your client. You see things their way and you let them know. You validate that experience and guide them into that positive direction. And being genuinely non-judgmental. Sometimes we want to look at people and we want to judge what they're going through, but we can't really do that. As someone who's helping someone else to overcome that negativity in their life, you have to be authentic in that bond, because they would know if you're not true to them. And normalizing, that's where you're going to help the client to see that they're having these issues and it's okay. It's okay that you're depressed. It's okay, but we're here and we're going to work through this process together. And in reframing that individual experience, and this is where you going to ensure the client that you understand their problem and you're going to encourage them to see it from the other person's perspective. So that's one example. You're going to use the two-chair, because they'll be able to see both sides of the issue, their perspective as well as the person that their anger is directed at. And then you have the track and reflect, the negative cycles. That's why your client is talking to you. You're going to start picking up on when they start to turn negative in that conversation with you. And you're going to show them, okay, this is one of those negative cycles. that we need to start learning how we're gonna redirect you from this. And then redirect the negative emotion. This is where you have tracked all of the negativity in that conversation with them, and you know what it is that has caused their issues or caused them to be angry. And so you're gonna teach them the different techniques that they can use in order to redirect themselves from that, so that that negative vibe that they're having is not gonna carry on throughout their lives. Are there any questions so far? Okay, this is a case study which you all have the copy of it. Can someone please read this case study on Andrea?
Andrea is 30 years old, married, female with children, has sought treatment from an EFT counselor for depression. Andrea states more often that she does not feel like getting out of the bed in the morning. Andrea has isolated herself from her loved ones and friends. Andrea feels that she is losing grip and having trouble coping and hiding her feelings from others. She does not feel as though she can trust others.
Okay, there's 3 questions that I need you to answer, so if you will break out into group, Mr. Richardson, if you would join one of the groups, and you're gonna discuss how you're gonna answer these questions, and then we're gonna come back together and we're gonna discuss them. You're gonna have 2 minutes to look at it and come up with a plan, and then we're gonna discuss it.
What caused it? See, you don't hear nothing about she is mad, but you know she running like his anyway. So she going through that right there, and then we got to look at him, but it's primary and it's secondary stuff.
She's experiencing a loss of control for herself. As I said, she's losing pictures with basically even with reality and coping and hiding her feelings. So therefore, when your person hides their feelings, they are basically your trust issues. A lot of trust issues there. Now look at the second question. The techniques which you change to a healthier to a healthier person. Instead of being isolated, to get her to go out to interact with interaction with more people. Yes. Address the problem, number 4. And recognize that there is a problem. They can recognize that there's a problem. Right. Mm-hmm. And then, since she got that, if you isolate yourself, you have a denial sensibility. So therefore, you need to, that's what she accepted that is a problem. And she started to interact more with people outside.
I call it secondary adaptive depression, and then the instrumental response. That's being isolated. Yes.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, who would like to go first? Identify what primary and secondary adaptive or maladaptive emotions and instrumental responses that Andrea are experiencing.
She's experiencing loneliness.
Okay.
She's experiencing isolation, rejection, to a sense, probably even by whomever she's this situation has stemmed from.
Okay,
We pretty much said the same thing, that she experiencing depression, and it's causing the responses like isolation and paranoia.
okay, and I heard in this group over here, well, they was looking at this, they realized, okay, we don't know what she depressed about, right?
That's the first
So
thing.
that's the
She
first
has
thing
to address the issue.
we need to address that issue. And by being aware of it first and then addressing it, then we can help Andrea to overcome some of her issues. Okay,
Did
very
that go
good.
on the first question?
Yes,
By addressing, okay.
yes. What techniques would you use in guiding Andrea to change to a healthier person?
Well, we said that after we, when we're being genuine and we're talking to her, like she'll eventually start to open up, and hopefully we can identify what's causing the depression. And once we address that and get her to focus on other things or fix, whatever's causing it, then that'll fix the isolation and cut herself off from her family, and hopefully that'll eventually solve everything.
Okay.
Not judging her.
Right, because you don't want her to feel that you're looking down at her for having this depression or feeling the way that she does, okay?
And to make her feel like she can trust you.
Right.
Because in order for a person to overcome any barrier and to open up and to express their feelings, they have trust issues. So therefore, they have to feel as though they trust you. If I can't trust you, I can't share my problem.
Right.
And to let them know that it's okay to have those feelings.
Exactly.
Right, we want them to know, we all are human and we do go through things in life, but that's what we're here for, is to help you overcome this so you can be the best that you can be. That's so good. Okay. Andrea got a lot of stuff going on with her, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Is she the only person that needs to be treated in this situation?
No, everybody goes through those issues if you're truthful with
We
yourself.
said the whole family,
Right.
the whole family.
The whole family,
And why you think that?
spouse.
Because I feel like we said the children too, because we feel like when your mom is going through depression, it's harder to, you need your mom.
Right.
And when she can't give you, like you were saying earlier, the emotion that a child needs, the security, that's hard on the child, so we thought that the child was very.
Your kids know when you're going through something, and it has an effect on them.
Yeah, but
And
that's
even-
like
and
their
even-
fault.
But even spouses, if you're in a relationship, they pick up on it because
Right.
they can feel withdrawal. Say for instance, like when Dr. Elliott was speaking, he was talking about the fact that he came up with, says that if the dinner wasn't on time, that person ended up lashing out, and then they feel like, hey, the whole relationship is gonna go off. And I'm like, if the dinner's not on time, they're gonna cause you to break up with somebody, but still the same. That's mine.
And the same
Right.
with the kids too, like, they can go to school and start acting out, because,
That's the first place it showed.
mama ain't this one at home, she not around, she not telling them right from wrong, so, they gotta put the feelings out on somebody, they ain't gonna do it on their own.
Right, and those,
And they would cause those people whom they interact with to lash out on those individuals, as Dr. Elliott stated. To say, for instance, if me and my siblings, we have no problem, I have a problem with one sibling, I could act out on another sibling because they may not even see what I'm seeing.
okay, very good. Okay, and the recap of what we learned tonight, we learned that our emotions are who we are. So they're important to us because we develop our emotions from birth on up into our adulthood. And if we don't learn to express those emotions, then we'll get wrapped up and bound up in ourselves. And if we don't ever get past that, we're not aware of what those emotions are, then in being tied up in those emotions, then we get into ourselves and then we start to lash out. Okay? So anytime you come in contact with someone that are experiencing some type of negativity, don't treat them as though they don't count, because they do. They're going through something that at some point all of us will experience something in our lives. Are there any questions? Okay, I would like to thank each of you for coming tonight and participating in this discussion and this class. And that concludes our class today.
I'm asking you something, I'm ready. Oh, it's still brewing? Is EFT, oh,